Hi, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Hope y'all are doing good. Thanks to the mods for being here. Welcome in, welcome in. Very curious to see if this judge just lays the hammer down. Hello, Bet from Cameron, North Carolina. We're going to get some rain this weekend. Canada. Um, we'll see. I mean, the judge doesn't have to follow the prosecutor's recommendations of letting her go and going back to Brazil. So I'm really curious to see. I like this judge. She's fair. She knows the law. I would love to see it, y'all. Plus, we're going to probably have some victim impact statements. And after this, I might take a little nap and then we'll go live later just to talk about the latest in Nancy Guthrie. Been a hot mess over there, y'all. We're hearing those reports that the sheriff is just withholding evidence from the FBI and refusing to let them help, which, I mean, we're on day 13. It's crazy. FBI finds a glove in the house yesterday. Don't know what's going on, but it's kind of infuriating that Nancy's kind of been at the mercy of a sheriff who clearly, according to other people that have worked with him, has an ego the size of Texas. So definitely want to look into that today and see what develops. Hopefully, this is the day we hear something new, but man, it seems like Groundhog Day. I agree, Edwina. I understand completely that they couldn't have gotten Brendan without her, but still, I mean, she killed Joseph Ryan, and more importantly to me is like she showed no emotion, and I think that speaks volumes. And I hope the judge is going to consider that. So we will see. So Edwina, as far as I've gathered, is yesterday they found a glove inside the house that I'm assuming hasn't been discovered before. So, I mean, we're missing evidence. You had that camera that was in plain view for days before it was taken down, and that was taken down by the FBI. And it just seems like, the sheriff's denying it. I mean, he is absolutely saying that he is cooperating. He says that he called them, and the FBI is like, no, we called him. And, Brian Enton reported last night that as recently as the day before yesterday, they were withholding critical evidence. And one of the biggest being that the glove, I believe, that was found on the side of the road. Of course, the FBI wanted to send that to Quantico, use the latest technology, but the sheriff instead sent it to a private lab in Florida that is contracted with the sheriff's office. And I don't think let FBI know he was gonna do that, so I don't know why we're working against, bringing her home for the sheriff. I don't blame the investigators. These investigators want to find her. They're probably exhausted and incredibly frustrated because their hands are tied. But my question is, at what point does somebody step in and just take them off? Um, we find out now how much he's been working against the FBI, and we see him at a basketball game, what, last week? Well, this is an active case and clearly not turned over to the FBI. It's just not a good look. And we haven't had a presser in a week. And there's been things that have happened. We had somebody detained. Um, the deadline passed. Nothing. It's just amazing at how this has gone. And yeah, for the family, um, yeah, 3 gloves, a pair, and then 1 in the house, so can't imagine what the family's thinking. I mean, there have been critical days lost, minutes count, and, Brian Enton interviewed a former investigator that worked with the sheriff who said that this isn't the first time he's blocked the FBI, and he didn't mince words. Let's just say he's not a fan. So it's troubling. Ego comes way after, Mrs. Guthrie's life, so no, Jade, so the plea deal was for manslaughter, so the max she can get is 10 years. Um, Yeah, I really think it boils down to ego just from everything I've heard from people there, like Brian Enton. He said that's kind of been the tone all week there. He's talked to these investigators and they're tired. They're frustrated. They don't know who's in charge. They're out doing this job every day. They don't know if the sheriff's in charge or if the FBI is. And I mean, that is unacceptable. 13 days in. Um, oh yeah. So Cheryl, yeah, I mean, and I can see that, but, he's setting himself up to be criticized. You're not gonna have a bunch of investigators lying to Brian Enton saying that the sheriff's making all this very difficult and that really he's screwing it up, unless it's true. I believe the investigators and I feel for them. That's what investigators do. They want a quick resolution, but when you got your hand behind your back, it's hard. I don't know the legal process of how somebody in authority could step in and say, "You are off this case completely." But I'm sure too, the FBI, I think the FBI can. It's just you don't really want the government coming in and messing with like a state elected sheriff, an elected sheriff. I don't get it, but at this point, somebody got to get him off this case. Glimpse into why all the experienced investigators left. 100%. Yeah. And the other thing is, some of these investigators are newer, a couple of years in, which doesn't mean they're not capable. But when you're losing veteran investigators because the sheriff's got an ego, it's bad. So yeah, I need to actually take this banner off. So yeah, I'm gonna see what I can find out today. See what's up, but I think I might nappy poo in between because I'm exhausted, y'all. I know the mods are too. Just need a couple of hours under my belt. But knowing me, I'll lay in the bed and just think of everything I could be doing and just get up. So I don't think we'll go live for hours today. We might hop on for an hour or so and always can hop back on if something breaks. So yeah, I hope she gets 10 years. We'll see. Yeah, I agree with you. KDT. Yeah, I mean, a woman's life's on the line. There's been so much missed evidence. And I mean, just yesterday, 3 people walked up to that door with an officer from the sheriff's office posted there. Amazon delivery driver, I think another pizza delivery, and then, let me get this screen all set up. And then a neighbor who was upset about something came up, and, I believe the dog peed on the crime scene from what I'm hearing. So it's just insane, y'all. It's almost a joke. Thank you so much, Kimmer. I appreciate your support. You are always so kind and generous. So I'm gonna leave it here, and we'll wait for this to start. They moved it up to 11:20, so we got about 10 minutes. I'm gonna get a few things done here. I gotta check some emails. So yeah, just watch out for the socials, for a link wanna go live, and make sure you're subscribed. If you go to my main page and see the word subscribe, that means you're not. So I would certainly appreciate it if you would, give a subscribe and a thumbs up. That's the best way to help the podcast. So thank y'all. We'll be back in a bit. One more quick thing before I get busy. People have asked about not being able to see chat when they're watching on their phones. I have found if you turn your phone sideways, it'll pop up. That might be the easiest thing. I know some people said they wanted to participate, but they weren't able. So there's your tip of the day. Or cell phones, please.
The Honorable Phineas Roddy presiding. Please be seated and come to order.
Okay. Let me just, do you want to do the quick matter on the Banfield case?
Judge, did you want to do that before or after?
Yeah, let's just do that right now. All right, because Mr. Carroll, I think, is here. Mr. Carroll, if you want to come forward, just on the case of Commonwealth versus Brendan Banfield, Mr. Banfield's presence has been waived. Mr. Carroll is present, and Commonwealth is present. This comes on your Commonwealth's motion to seal 2 of the defense exhibits, correct?
Judge, yes, 2 exhibits, and we're actually going to, orally add 2 more. We have been approached by Mr. Phillips, representing Inova Hospital and a member of the public about another case that includes, another exhibit that includes personal information. So the defense exhibits we would ask to seal are 120,
Right.
121,
Okay.
122, and 123.
Right, and that has protected patent information, is that correct?
Protected health information or protected personal information.
Okay. All right, okay, so I got you. All right, any objections?
No objection, Judge.
All right, we'll go ahead and seal those for, I assume there's many patient information in there, is that what it is?
There, yes.
Okay, so 120, 121, 122, and 123, correct?
Yes.
All right, I'll grant your motion. That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. All right, Commonwealth versus Magalhaes.
Morning, Ron Campbell, President.
Good morning, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you.
All right, the case of Commonwealth of Virginia versus Juliana Perez Magalhaes. Ms. Perez Magalhaes is present in the courtroom with her attorney. The Commonwealth is present. Comes today for sentencing. Are we ready to go forward today, Mr. Campbell?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, have you reviewed the pre-sentence investigation report with your client?
We did, Your Honor. No changes, additions, or corrections.
All right, does the Commonwealth have any?
No changes, additions, or corrections.
All right, I'll make the pre-sentence investigation report part of the record. The Commonwealth, as far as evidence, I do have, victim impact statements that I have already reviewed. Is there any objection to those victim impact statements?
Your Honor, my position, I talked to the Commonwealth, is that some of them fall outside the definition under.
Okay, which
the code.
ones? Or are you objecting to certain ones, or are you not?
Your Honor, the specific ones are the ones that relate to Christine Banfield, so the
Okay.
family members of Christine.
So you object to those with victim impact statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
And Judge, what I would say to that is that certainly the statement of facts that we presented, and that is included in the pre-sentence report, includes information about also the murder of Christine Banfield. I understand that this charge itself reflects the killing and the murder of Joseph Ryan. However, I do think that the voices of Christine Banfield's family are important in this hearing as well.
I understand, but he's only been charged with the murder. I mean, she's only been charged with the murder of Joseph Ryan. So the only victim impact statements the court can consider are the ones based on which the Commonwealth has charged her with. So I can only take into consideration the victim impact statements from Joseph Ryan's family.
Understood,
Okay,
Your Honor.
so I'll do that and I'll grant your
Thank you, Your
motion.
Honor.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other evidence?
Judge, I do, in light of the court's ruling, I'm going to have 2 witnesses to
Okay.
call. The first of which is going to be Deirdre Fisher.
Okay. Deirdre Fisher.
She is appearing via Teams.
All right. Okay. Ma'am, if you could just raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, Ms. Fisher.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name for the court?
My name is Deirdre Maureen Fisher.
And can you tell the court your relationship to Joe Ryan?
Joseph Ryan is my son.
And can you tell the court of any psychological injury that you have received resulting from this offense, or any changes to your personal welfare, lifestyle, or relationships resulting from this offense?
Is this outside of the statement that I
No, ma'am.
am going to read?
You go ahead and read your statement.
Oh, so I read it now?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Honorable Judge Penny S. Ascaretti, for giving me the opportunity to talk about the impact of the murder of my son, Joseph Nathan Ryan. My baby boy was born 2 days before Christmas, making that our special holiday. His middle name was Nathan, which means gift. Since Joe's murder, I haven't been able to take down my little Christmas tree, which sits behind the urn with his ashes. I say good morning to him each day when I turn on the tree's lights. But of course, that's not Joe sitting there. He can't say, I love you back. When Joe was taken from me cruelly and callously, murdered by Juliana and Brendan on February 24th, 2023, I lost so very much, more than I can possibly name. I lost my confidant, someone who knew me deeply, listened without judgment, offered advice with my best interests at heart. I lost my biggest ally and my cheerleader. That empathetic voice saying, Mom, you got this. Mom, you should be kinder to yourself. I lost my rock and protector. The person who flew down repeatedly to take care of me when I had cancer. I lost the comfort of knowing that my son would be there to care for me when I'm an old woman with illness or dementia, just as he cared for his grandmother and grandfather. I lost my financial sustainability due to grief's torturous effect on my health, both physically and mentally, which has affected my ability to work and function. I lost my peace and sense of well-being. I can never unhear Joe's moans and cries after he was shot, the cries of a dying man. I can never unsee the image of his lifeless, bloody hand from the trial images. I lost nearly all my friends who couldn't handle dealing with someone lost in grief or understand why my life can't just go on. I lost the chance to ever be called grandma. I will never have that. I lost the sound of Joe calling me the most beautiful word in the world, Mom. I lost my Christmas baby, Joseph Nathan, my greatest gift. The impact of Joe's loss doesn't go away. Will never go away, but only grow. So many tears, so many times reaching for the phone to call him, only to remember that he won't and can't pick up. So many times hearing the phone ring and wishing it was him, calling me out of the blue about something happening in the world or in his life. So many empty Christmases and so many birthdays without him singing to me in his awful yet beautiful voice, tone deaf. So many moments of trying to remember the exact sound of his laughter and fearing that someday I won't. So many sleepless nights. So many nightmares of his brutal murder and fear, confusion, and of the pain he must have felt. So many screams and guttural cries into my pillow, feeling the loss of my son. So many moments of reading horrible things online, lies told about who Joe wasn't. So many moments defending and explaining who my son was and why he couldn't have committed the murder of Christine Banfield. God rest her soul. So many conversations with others, draining them and me of a chance to make happier memories together. So many stomach aches. So many doctor's appointments, hospital bills, feelings of shame about my health. So many times wishing I could tell Joe about another milestone in my weight loss journey, seeking better health, knowing how encouraging and proud he would be. So many lost moments, so many moments of loss. My son's life was used and thrown away, seen as worthless and utterly disposable. Disposal by those who plotted and executed his brutal murder. Do I think or dare hope that there will be justice for Joe's death? For my loss as his mother? I don't believe that's possible. What I do hope is that even for a moment, that the world and you, Judge, will say Joe meant more than nothing, that he was someone worthy of dignity and life, who didn't deserve to be used and thrown away, treated as utterly disposable. Thank you for listening and for weighing the trail of pain and loss Juliana left in the wake of her calculated, cold-blooded murder, with her life and future as her only concern. My son, Joseph Nathan Ryan, was not and is not disposable. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Please answer any questions that Mr. Campbell may have.
All right, cross-examination. No cross-examination. Okay, thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Thank you.
All right, your next witness.
Judge, the next witness that I have is going to be Ms. Sangeeta Ryan, who is present in court.
Okay, Ms. Ryan.
Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case under penalty of law? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name for the court?
Sangeeta Ryan.
And can you describe your relationship to Joe Ryan?
This is where I read my statement. Who I met, Joey Nathan Ryan, was my nephew. And Honorable Judge Ascarati, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you for allowing the Ryan family to speak up for our Joey Nathan Ryan. We thank the jury for helping us achieve justice for Joe and Christine. And we thank the Fairfax County Police Department, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and all that helped, and we are grateful for justice. So our family has remained silent since the devastating loss out of grief, but also out of respect for the justice system. For us, Joe did not just die on February 23rd, 23. He was murdered over and over again, every time lies were spoken, every time his picture was posted alongside salacious stories told by two wolves in sheep's clothing who perpetrated this crime and attempted to destroy the memory of two remarkable people. Julia and her boss/lover intended to snuff out the life of two innocent victims who deserve to live full and meaningful lives of their own. Well, while we acknowledge the defendant for eventually coming forward with the truth, telling the truth doesn't absolve her of responsibility. Honesty is something we're taught at a young age. Telling the truth doesn't erase the harm. It simply allows others to move forward. It doesn't bring Joe back, and it sure doesn't bring Christine back. Hearing the truth has finally allowed us to exhale. It validated to the world what we already knew, that Joe was not the monster he was portrayed to be. Rather, Joe was an elder brother, a brand new uncle, the eldest cousin and confidant to four. He is my beloved nephew and a son and grandson to his loving family. Pardon me 1 second. We acknowledge that Juliana was a young woman in a foreign country, in love with her employer in a situation where the power imbalance was not in her favor. But where our compassion ends is with the one other responsibility. Juliana was entrusted with and received payment for the care and protection of a small, innocent child. And Juliana, I feel, failed Valerie repeatedly. She was trusted to protect this young charge, but instead chose to cause irreparable damage. She robbed her of her mother. She stole childhood memories. She chose to partner in the brutal assassination of her mother's character, as well as her beautiful being. The defendant and her boss/boyfriend convinced Valerie that a stranger broke into her home and killed her mother, when in fact the monsters were the very people who cared for her after the loss. Julia and her boss worked to erase her mother's existence and credibility and place the blame on an innocent man. Our hearts go out to all of Christine and Valerie's family. What an absolutely incredible person she must have been. But may I tell you about Joe? Joe is loved. Joe came to live with the Ryan family. I'm so sorry.
Take your time.
Joe came to live with the Ryan family just days after his birth. His birth parents, Dad, Sean, and Deirdre, who you met, were teenagers, so Joe lived with and was raised by his paternal grandparents, Connie and Jim, for all of his life. As a young child, Joe, who we call Joey, was fun-loving and loved from the beginning. He was inquisitive, curious, smart, charming, and so dang talkative. Joe approached strangers and passerbyers with random and nerdy questions about Transformers and movie characters and the Legend of Zelda video game characters and who would win in a battle between this person, and he respectfully waited the answers, whether you knew them or not. As he grew into adulthood, Joe's hobbies included building or painting anything that used his fine motor skills. He loved martial arts. He had a great love and respect for our environment, animals, especially mistreated, neglected, and ugly dogs. And he rescued many injured and less loved dogs, bringing them across the country in his travels safely home to the home he shared with his grandmother. Joe cared for people, he cared for animals, and Joe didn't hurt people. When Joe's grandfather, Pap, required care due to a debilitating stroke, Joe left his life in Virginia and moved to Florida to serve as the full-time caregiver to his grandfather, the grandfather that supported him from infancy. When Pap developed dementia and had to move into a memory care facility, then Joe moved back to Virginia where he began to take care of his grandmother, who had begun to experience health problems of her own. Joe took over transportation for medical appointments, hospital procedures, food shopping, and the bond between Connie and her grandson was as close as that of a mother and child. Joe would never have put himself in a dangerous situation that would risk his ability to continue to take care of his beloved grandmother or his old ugly dog, Kitty. I'm sorry, she's not ugly. When Joe didn't come home, Joe's grandmother, Connie, lost the gentleman that she and Pap raised as their fourth son. Joe's sudden murder devastated his grandma, who was 81 and devastated her so much she could no longer live in the family home without Joe, and quietly and quickly sold her home to dodge memories, grief, and reporters to move closer to my husband and me. My husband is Joe's Uncle Jimmy, and I'm his Aunt Gita. In Joe's absence, my husband and I made the decision to leave our careers and to take over his grandma's support and care team. We continue to do that today, and we think about and talk about Joe every single day. Honorable Judge Asgarati, we feel Joe and Christine were targeted by the worst kind of monsters, the kind who live among the victims and wait until they're the most vulnerable. We feel as a woman, a caretaker, and as a daughter, Juliana had opportunity to stop this brutal assassination. We think she could have warned Christine. We think she could have warned Joe that morning. This could have been a very different ending where Juliana saved 2 lives, but that's not. At least she should have done the job for which she was being paid to protect a child. She did not. So many opportunities to do the right thing, and Juliana over and over chose not to. And while we acknowledge that she found the strength to tell the truth, it doesn't absolve the responsibility. So today we leave here finally standing as Joe's family. This nightmare's ending. It's our hope that Juliana doesn't walk free, but continues to reflect on how she became capable of doing this, so that when she does return to Brazil, she never victimizes another person, never betrays another child in her care, and never again places selfish desire above human life. She doesn't deserve to profit. We hope that can be enforced. The reality is, though, she will be free one day, and our hope is that she carries the weight of the lives destroyed, that Juliana chooses to live as a decent person, and that she is truly remorseful. The sentence that Juliana receives today is not the only one given. We all carry a life sentence of grief, even after hers ends. We ask for peace. We ask to be allowed to move forward. Today we move forward by returning Joe's kindness to the world. We say his name proudly. We invite the world to finally know the man we protected in silence for so long. He is loved. We miss Joe, and our family is devastated by the way he was ripped from our lives. Joe won't complete painting his unfinished Warhammer 3D figurines. He won't compete in any more live-action role-playing battles with silly, hand-created foam weapons, nor his mixed martial arts or video game battles. He'll no longer bore us with lectures about eating organic food over junk food, but it's with our hearts we thank you, Honorable Judge, and the jury that was here, members of the court, the police, the detective, the prosecution team, the victims team, and all the witnesses who supported justice for Joe. Thank you so much for listening.
Please answer any questions that Mr. Campbell might have.
Any cross-examination?
No questions, Your
All right, no questions. All right, you can.
Thank
go
you
back
so
to your seat.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Judge, I don't have any further evidence, but I do want to acknowledge to the court that the family of Christine Banfield is here today. You can see them to your honor's right,
All right. Thank you. Thank you,
along
ma'am.
with Joe's family. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, Commonwealth rest for evidence. For the defense residents, I do have for your evidence the memorandum of support of sentencing, which I
Thank
have
you, Your
reviewed. In addition, 3 letters that you have provided
Yes, Your
as
Honor.
well. I reviewed those as well.
Your Honor, I'm going to hand up a few certificates that,
Sure.
Mr. President, they can just be made part of the record there.
Okay. Are
And
these
no
okay
further
to be,
evidence.
can be part of the file, or do you need copies? We can make copies of them if you'd like.
That'd be fine, Your Honor.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
make copies. All right, let me just review them, please. All right, we'll go ahead and make copies of these certificates and make them part of the records as well. All right, any other evidence from the defense?
No further evidence.
All right, argument?
Judge, the Commonwealth in this case, as the court is aware, made a recommendation, and the Commonwealth stands by that recommendation.
All right, argument, Mr. Campbell?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the two witnesses that you heard from today made it clear that hearing the truth was valuable to them, to the Ryan family, and it was the truth that Juliana spoke at trial. And ultimately, it was her testimony that likely resulted in the conviction of Brendan Banfield. Until her cooperation, the Commonwealth had only a theory. They had circumstantial evidence, but no direct evidence. When Juliana finally came forward, she offered that direct evidence of what crimes she'd been involved in and what crimes were committed by Brendan Banfield. Your Honor, our position is that justice requires that the court follow the joint recommendation of the parties. Justice requires it because it was an arm's length agreement made by an experienced prosecution team with the approval of the head of the office, with the knowledge of all the facts and circumstances of the case, not just the facts of the case, but issues that would be presented at trial, the presentation of evidence and witnesses, sentencing guidelines, and many other factors that the parties consider beyond what the court might realize. Justice requires it because Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield and their families deserve justice. By accepting responsibility in this case and cooperating, we avoided two trials. We assured the finality of the decision in this case, and we gave the jury and the Commonwealth and the court confidence that Brendan Banfield would be convicted, as he ultimately was. Justice requires following the agreement because every individual that makes
Following the recommendation.
recommendation, yes,
Thank
Your Honor. And I addressed that in my memo, of course.
Yes.
Every individual that makes a difficult decision to cooperate does so with the belief that the recommendation would be followed or at least considered by the court. The Commonwealth, the courts, and prosecutors in courts everywhere in the country rely on cooperating witnesses to do what Juliana has done in this case, which is to speak to the truth and offer direct evidence of crimes, included those cooperating witnesses that they themselves have committed serious offenses. When a prosecutor makes a promise, the court ought to give it serious weight. Your Honor, I'll say I'm disappointed but not surprised that the Commonwealth didn't advocate today for the recommendation. I have deep respect for Ms. Bristler and Ms. Sands and the prosecution team. I suspect that this is frankly because of public sentiment regarding the agreement that they made.
Recommendation.
I'm going to continue to make that
I
mistake.
understand.
Your Honor, I just want to touch on a few things that I've just
Sure.
reviewed.
Yes, yes. Sir.
Your Honor, the importance of the cooperation. Ms. Sands did communicate to me that she interviewed the foreman of the jury, who said three things to them, three things that Ms. Sands relayed to me, that they believed Juliana Perez Magalhaes, that her testimony was integral. That was the word that Ms. Sands used. In other words, central to their decision to convict Brendan Banfield. And third, that they didn't believe Brendan Banfield. Your Honor, that is important for the court to consider because, again, up until her testimony, which was presented first in the Commonwealth series of witnesses, the Commonwealth had only a theory. The Commonwealth had circumstantial evidence, forensic evidence, electronic forensic evidence, digital forensic evidence, and others. But it was Juliana who ultimately told the story firsthand of what occurred. Because that decision was integral in the jury's decision, I think it could be said, and of course the court presided over the entire trial, you can determine her credibility yourself, but the jury certainly found it integral to their decision. And for that reason, the Commonwealth's recommendation, the joint recommendation, should be given heavy consideration by the court in this case. Your Honor, I briefly want to just touch on the delay in cooperating. It was evident to the defense that from Juliana's first date of arrest that they wanted her cooperation desperately. Her cooperation didn't come quickly. And our position is that at that time, she was still under the grip of Brendan Banfield, and the plan that he had convinced her would work. She still believed that there wouldn't be sufficient evidence for a conviction, and she was relying on Brendan's plan to get her through her arrest and prosecution. As she languished in jail, discovery dripped in. We really didn't receive significant discovery until after the preliminary hearing in this case. And even leading up to the trial date, we still hadn't received much of the digital forensic evidence that was made central to Brendan Banfield's case. Your Honor, the tipping point was perhaps the arrest of Brendan Banfield. That broke his grip on Juliana. The communications between Brendan and Juliana ceased. There were no further assurances that things would be okay for her, that they would have a life together afterwards. She was left alone, truly alone. No communications from his mother or family or other people, and no ability for her to actually contact her own family. She was left alone upon Brendan's arrest, and that was a huge factor in her coming forward. Your Honor, when she did come forward, we moved rapidly. We had a lengthy debrief followed by a plea within a day or two of that debrief. The next several months resulted in continued debriefings. We were available at every request of the Commonwealth. She continued to be candid and open with her statements, and I haven't heard any issues with her reluctance to answer questions in those debrief sessions. Your Honor, if she hadn't testified, there's a good chance that Brendan wouldn't have been convicted. First, the Commonwealth believed her. Secondly, Brendan chose to testify himself. I doubt he would have done that without her testimony. He chose to directly challenge her statement of offense, of her account of what occurred, and he was caught in his own lies. Beginning with shortly after cross-examination, the question of whether he loved her or not, and him saying, well, I didn't really love her. There were certain things that were in the way. And finally ending with his testimony about an important meeting that he was going to. Upon reviewing that testimony, his boss came forward and testified the next day that there was no meeting. Brendan's lies ultimately resulted in his conviction, but he might not have testified if Juliana hadn't testified. Your Honor, I appreciate the comments of Joseph Ryan's family, and I've read the letters that were filed by Christine's family, and there's no words I can offer to console them at this time. But it is critical that there was no trial in this case, that there is finality for the families, and that there was cooperation by Juliana that resulted in Brendan's conviction. Your Honor, the last thing I want to comment on is the agreement in this case, the recommendation.
Thank you.
I had hoped the language of the plea agreement says that the Commonwealth recommends. It doesn't say they have to get up and advocate or pound their fist and argue to what extent the cooperation was important. But the court can weigh that yourself. It was critical. Her cooperation and testimony was critical to the outcome of Brendan Banfield's case. This was an agreement for a recommendation that was made with full knowledge of what the facts were of the case and what public sentiment might be regarding the agreement for Juliana in this case. The agreement was made anyway.
Recommendation.
Recommendation.
Thank you.
The recommendation was made with the input of all the victims, of the police department, and all the important people as required by law. And there was no pushback at that time, Your Honor. I have a position in my sentencing memo whether this is an agreement or a recommendation under A1, A, or C. I'll maintain that argument, Your Honor. I ask that the court follow the joint recommendation of the parties and impose an active sentence of no more than time served in this case.
All right, thank you, Mr. Campbell. All right, Ms. Perez-Magalhaes, if you could stand up, please. If you could stand up, Ms. Perez-Magalhaes. Is there anything you wish to say at this time before sentence is imposed?
Yeah, I would like to read a statement. I have caused your pain. They cannot be measured and forever changed so many lives. I pray for forgiveness from the Benson family and from Joseph Ryan's family and from Valerie. I will never forgive myself for the pain caused. I hope that my cooperation in this case somehow begin to help repair the damage caused. There is nothing I could possibly do to make it up to you, to your loss. Sorry. There are so many regrets, but this is my biggest. That's it. That's a tragedy I have been carrying with me, and I will always do. It's something I have nightmares with. A tragedy I know I can never take back, the devastation of what I have done. I know that my remorse cannot bring you peace. I hope you might someday understand that I truly do not believe that his plan would have actually happened. I have grown so much over the past 3 years, and look back at my younger self at 22 years old, falling head over heels for someone 15 years older. They only seen his good side and clinging to someone that showed me love. I lost myself in a relationship, leaving my morals and values behind, and putting even my loved ones through this. My time in jail has been a time of reflection for me to better myself in more ways than I realized I needed. I had to find myself again. That's when I truly found God, when I had lost the desire to live, when I wanted to die. The guilt and feelings that I didn't deserve to live and that I was a monster were overwhelming. In God, I found the forgiveness and mercy, and I am restored. Jail is not a place you can bear to let yourself drown in those feelings. I wanted to disconnect from my pain and the guilt and get into survival mode to stay mentally sane, because inevitably, with memories come pain. Yet, I know I will live with this for the rest of my life. God and I only know the shame and guilt and sorrow I carry for all I have caused. Sorry for Joe's family and Christine's family. Sorry for Valerie, an innocent little girl who has so much love that will grow without her mother and now her father. This is a heavy burden to carry, knowing you could have prevented it at all from happening. I understand that I am to blame, and I'm truly sorry for the pain it caused. I hope someday I can be forgiven, as I hope to be able to forgive myself. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right. In this matter, the court does find that the manslaughter charge was the large benefit of your bargain for testifying, which was a huge bargain and a plea deal. You could have been facing life plus 3 years, and now the maximum I can sentence you to today is 10 years. That's clearly a trade for your cooperation with the Commonwealth and what the Commonwealth offered. And you accepted that along with the Commonwealth's recommendation for time served, which is not an agreement, and as you know, not binding on the court, as we discussed at length at your plea. The reduction of charge is a mitigation. I have watched your interviews and I watched you testify, and I just cannot find any further mitigation factors for your case. You may not have come up with a plan, agreed, and an older man may have groomed you to a point, but I want to list for the record the facts that I cannot equate with accepting a time served recommendation. These are aggravating factors either not fully captured or not reflected in the sentencing guidelines. Number one, until today, you have shown no empathy for the victim in this case. Number two, you were more involved with the plan than you testified to. First off, there were numerous postings on social media platforms and text platforms looking for a target, texting and speaking directly with Joseph Ryan, encouraging him to bring the knife, and ultimately through the phone conversation, getting his consent, knowing all along you were bringing him to his death. Lying to Christine and setting up the plan for the zoo, using her devices and hiding her phone, using a child as a pawn in your plan, waiting outside for Joseph to show up, calling Mr. Banfield to bring him to the scene, and at any point for at least the month prior or that day, you could have stopped this. The plan did not work without your full involvement. Number three, having the loaded firearm in your pocket. Number four, bringing a child into the basement knowing two people were about to be murdered, to include the child's mother. Number five, hearing Christine ask you to call 911, which you did and then immediately hung up. Number 6, seeing Joseph Ryan, who was shot in the head at that time, still moving and walking up to him as he lay moaning on the floor and shooting him point blank in the heart. Number 7, watching as Mr. Banfield stabbed Christine over and over again. Number 8, waiting 15 minutes before recalling 911. Number 9, telling a fabricated story for over a year and a half, a story that depicted Joseph Ryan wrongly as a rapist and a murderer, an innocent man. And number 10, telling the child it was okay to call you mommy hours after the murder. Your actions were deliberate, self-serving, and demonstrated a profound disregard for human life. So let's get it straight. You do not deserve anything other than incarceration and a life of reflection on what you have done to the victim and this family. May it weigh heavily on your soul. So today I'm sentencing you on a manslaughter charge because that's what's before me. And the facts of this case demonstrate an intentional and calculated level of violence that is the most serious manslaughter scenario that this court has ever seen. Therefore, I do sentence you to 10 years in the penitentiary, as required by Virginia Code 19.2, 295.2. After you've completed your 10-year sentence, I will order an additional 2 years suspended, and you will be placed on probation pursuant to Virginia Code 19.2, 303. Since you have been convicted of a felony in Virginia, a sample of your DNA will also be drawn from the state police database. Are there any questions, Mr. Campbell? All right, anything further in this case?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, you're remanded to the custody of the sheriff. I believe that completes the docket, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, court will be in recess.
All rise. Court's in recess.
Well, there we go. Thank goodness for a judge who saw the severity of it and the lack of empathy. So I'm going to record a YouTube short and I'm going to nap. So look for a live later talking about Nancy Guthrie. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see y'all in a bit.